Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of Lancer Custom Werks, where I will be discussing the various mech builds you could make and play with Lancer. Chomolungma is just a variant of Everest that throws out being okay at everything to being a supreme tech platform. I guess this is the result of reverse engineering the goblin. Chomolungma is good at tech action, more specifically, it can just do more of it at the same time, whether that's locking on, bolster, or just scan, while still being a durable platform as it is a variant of the renowned standard GMS Pattern I chassis after all. More notably, it comes with its own exclusive invade options nothing else can do, to either force someone to go down on the ground, or cook them up like a microwave, and bear in mind, that's 4 heat, 6 if you have hacker and lock on, and 8 if you have nuclear cavalier while in danger zone 2, and if that's not enough, Chomolungma can just hack literally everything around it. A lot of people compares Chomolungma with Goblin, but honestly these two serves in a different role. Chomolungma, much like the Everest, is still more general purpose and good at doing just plain more things, whereas Goblin is still, and will always be, better at piercing through any electronic defense at far longer range. Also, because Chomolungma is available right off the bat at license level 0, you can basically just get whatever the hell you want and shove it into the chassis. That's the power of the GMS frame, extreme flexibility. Now, let's talk about the roles. Obviously, it is a good idea to build Chomolungma as a controller, specifically a tech controller, and acting as a support will be easy for Chomolungma too, as you will get more systems points than you know what to do with enough investment into systems. However, it's perfectly possible to decide that Chomolungma plus its extra invade options are already enough, and instead build it more into being striker, artillery, or defender, while still packing an electronic punch. Anyway, let's talk about the most common Chomolungma builds first. The controller support builds. Game, set, match, gate to the Underworld is what you could expect from a typical Chomolungma build. Held image spotter combo for a lot of lock-on and support, which Autopod takes advantage of. Open door to make it harder for your hack target to pass save roll. Sysop to bolster your allies and protect them from enemy heat gunner like Witch, and of course, a ton of invade and tech upgrades for an incredible amount of control and support. If you ever need to use more sensor range, you have Metahook to hook up to your allies. And if I'm reading the wording correctly, this even works with wide area code pulls to cover practically the entire map. That's gonna be fun, for you, not your foes. Hedge Wizard is another such build, with held image to auto-fire the damage boosted Autopod every turn, as well as having 2 NHP on board so the pilot can use Black Thumb and support the chassis itself from the outside, and still has an absurd amount of tech options, most notably OSIRIS to eventually fully dominate an enemy, while Viral Logic and Neurospike are here to make sure your enemies cannot attack well at all. Are you missing Battletaxi build? Well, here's one with Command Class Battle Transport, a Fomorian Battletaxi Chomolungma that also has held image Autopod combo for free damage, plus Spotter, Blackspot, Field Analyst, and Leader for even more lock-on and support. Pebcock is here for anti-tech defense, while HOROS2 and Wandering Nightmare are here for more general defense and support. Overall, a build that can get your team somewhere fast with a safe ride. The Loathsome Dung-Slinger is a Chomolungma with dual Slag cannons, to either provide a ton of covers for your allies, or to set them up as a sort of explosive with Seismic Ripper against your foes, or throw them with TSS-1. This build also has Lotus Projector to see through hidden and invisible enemies, and Markerlight so if your team needs someone dead soon, you can make it happen. That said, this build could really use held image core bonus instead of a backup weapon. It's just more convenient when you have spotter or hacker to further utilize it. True Pacifist, an odd way to name a build with 2 assault rifles, definitely very pacifist, is a build that never really intend to attack anything ever, and instead use Beckoner and Metafold on your allies instead to move or make them avoid damage. Your massive 28 health plus overshield from RMJ plus hardpoint reinforcement to have damage on your turn lets you spam Beckoner without problem for the most part. This thereby lets you utilize full Orator talent to support your allies, plus Field Analyst and Sysop for even more support. Kevin's famous funnel cakes is a half Emperor Chomolungma, which already makes it interesting because it's very hard to find people actually using Emperor systems on any other frames, other than the usual held image spotter Autopod combo. Centimane also benefits from it, and Bolt Nexus is certainly one of the more painful Nexus. Both Shanema and Walk of Kings are excellent systems to keep your allies alive but with more bonus, and Dominion itself is just painful. Savior and Avenger of Alarm Clocks is a half-white witch Chomolungma instead. One good thing about Chomolungma is that it's durable, and you can pin down 2 enemies at once with dual ferrofluid lances, plus taking damage for your allies with Camusa's Razor and Sympathetic Shield, so they are free to do whatever they want. You even have Houseguard and Exemplar for more defense, plus DIDYMOS and Wandering Nightmare for even more support. It really is a build that takes it all for its allies. If anyone's asking why this isn't in some kind of defender category, it's because I give up trying to differentiate controller, support, and defender builds with this insanely flexible frame. Error code 404 is an infiltrator Chomolungma, meaning it can just sneak around and then blue screen someone extra hard later with its many invade systems, plus double burst launchers to make sure nobody is leaving its range without getting impaired, with open door to make save rolls even worse. This is gonna be one painful build. Pinball Warlock is a drone commander Chomolungma that takes control of 3 Tempest drones. Other than just making the enemy's lives a pain by moving the drones besides them, you can use Horos 3 to Celestial Shackle an enemy next to a Tempest drone and see them keep repeatedly bouncing off it like a paddle ball. You can even put down Wandering Nightmare just for more pain. Also, this build still has held image, so you can use it for drone commander, hacker, Stormbringer, or just Autopod. Sit down, be humble, is a Chomolungma with one neat trick. With Houseguard 3, anytime you reduce damage to an allies in any way possible, you deal damage to the attacker. This includes using leader dice to reduce damage for allies, and with Empath, even if your allies have to roll for structure or reactor stress roll, they will be safer than usual. Hardpoint is here because you want to be closer than usual with this build. What's with the assault rifles and spike charges, which with balance control lockout or Horos 1, you can just force people to get near mines and get exploded, and Smite is a very good invade systems too. Being able to stun people is just very useful, all to make sure people sit the hell down. Finally, there's Call in Zeus, an infiltrator Chomolungma with Ghost Weave, so it can sneak very well, before bamboozling someone with all the NHP and then delete people with Iconoclast thanks to all the NHP on board. It's just very funny. And that's it on the controller support builds. A massive pain to anyone that fights your sides on the battlefield and a massive boon to your allies that requires your aid. I didn't mention it at all, but Hacker is just a very useful talent for Chomolungma just for more invade options and more heat gunning capability. Now, let's talk about the controller striker builds. Heat Death of the Opposing Force is a build that heat gun its foes by throwing plasma torches at them. This also cooks you up, but with Nuclear Cavalier, your enemy will heat up faster than you. When your enemy is about to reach their breaking point, you can use System Crusher or Last Argument of King. The former deals more heat, but the latter deal way more damage at the cost of being a full action. Either way, just cook your enemies alive, and if you are feeling too hot, you have Auto Cooler for free cooldown, plus Agni and Explosive Vent to explode anyone around you. Plus, if you ever just don't feel like it, this is still a Chomolungma, so you can just run off and hack people at a distance. Run, stay, either way, I Am the King Under the Mountain, is a Chomolungma with Kobold and Zheng systems mixed in for one hell of a brawling build. You just want to grapple people and beat the shit out of them, with TSS2 for even more damage, and Purifying Code to make them explode right in your palm, and then with Thinking Tomorrow's Thought, your fist will get even more painful on their face. It's just a bucket load of pain. Big Sword, Excalibur, is a Chomolungma with a Tempest-charged blade for a painful amount of damage, with Vanguard DSAS so you can shoot more people up close when you force them to get near you, with Horos 1 and Balance Control Lockout, and even after all that, Iconoclast with 3 NHP on board is going to be very painful. And one funny thing about Osiris, thanks to Chomolungma core power, you could easily reach 4th gate in a single turn, so that's fun. Is that a fucking reactor stabilizer is a very simple combat drill Chomolungma. When you see the chance, overcharge to use balance control lockout to make someone trip, then Pancrathy 2 right to their face and just drill their fucking ass off. If your reactor explodes, that's okay because you have this, and also this, or you can just use OSIRIS so you don't need to overcharge, which this build also has. Strike Me Down Zeus You Don't Have the Balls is a very simple Chomolungma with one word, smite, meaning, with wide area code pulse, you can just smite everyone to stun them all. This might straight up just kill you, if not for hardpoint reinforcement to have all damage on your turn, plus RMJ for some overshield. This also works well with Beckoner if you just want to teleport around normally. Either way, this will be very devastating. The Inverse Law of Ninjas is a TTT Terashima Chomolungma, that should explain everything already, with a nano comp coil rifle to pull down and towards people, as well as immediately immobilizing them with balance control lockout. Same goes for Duelist 3 to quickly grapple or ram down your opponent, and also with the Lord Stance Terashima too. And if you need to shut down a lot of opponents at once, Wide Area Code Pulse with Horo S1 to eject everyone's power cores can be very funny. The one who burns on the inside is a Lucifer Chomolungma that's fully intended to cook itself alive to cook its opponent alive, by throwing down Wandering Nightmare and just overcharge to get the right amount of danger zone before closing in with the lance and the torch. If the enemy is still alive, you can either use System Crusher, Last Argument of King, or just burn their face off with Plasma Gauntlet. Deep Well is here to at least give you a chance of not exploding. Queen Wahoo, Coke Wizard, what even is this referencing, is a Chomolungma with Sikamet. You can absolutely still play this frame as a normal Chomolungma, but if you want to rush in with Pankrathy 2 and just press a big red button that gives your Chomolungma a regiment worth of Psycho, you can do that. Immoblinded is a Chomolungma simply named that because it has a weapon mount of Impaler to immobilize people and Shock Knife with Shock Wreath to burn blind them too, thus the name. You also have a long list of other things to apply similar effects, with full Spaceborne talent to make sure people you have stabbed cannot get away from you easily. And finally, Tortuga's little brother is a Chomolungma with dual DSAS plus Vanguard. That's gonna hurt. If you ever want to delete someone, just barrage, overcharge skirmish, and move them with Horo S or BLC for Overwatch. That's 9d6 worth of damage, and with Stun Crown, you can be a lot of trouble up close. Orator might seems useless here given how much buckshots you want to fire, but with Horo S2 and turret drones, you can still support your allies while charging it up, and Orator 3 can be a very powerful ability. After 3 weeks of reviewing just as many striker-focused frames, it's a bit refreshing to see striker builds coming from a frame that focused around controlling and supporting instead, and Chomolungma can certainly be very powerful as a striker controller. Finally, let's take a look at the controller artillery builds. Shenanigans is a Cyclone Pulse Rifle Chomolungma, because of course there has to be one, that can also just zap people with Iconoclast thanks to the power of 4 NHP, with Metahook for even more tech action range if needed. While you might not be firing the CPR more than once in an entire match, honestly that might really be all you need for it. Difficulty, I find it very easy actually, is a flying Chomolungma with Vulture DMR to snipe from a good spot, plus an Uncle Shatterhead for free damage even with Type 3 shield on, both of which have range 15, exactly the sensor range of Chomolungma, so you can hack easily at a distance too without needing to move from your spot. Spotter is also good here since you can always use more lock-on. And finally, but the future refused to change, is a Tlaloc Pinyaka Missile Chomolungma. You can essentially use delayed Pinyaka as a threatening tool in multiple ways, by BLC people in them and get bombed, or use Banish from Viral Logic to force them to be bombarded or get cooked with System Crusher, or you can just move them in with Horo S1. Using lock-on from Held Image and Brilliance can also be used with Stormbringer's Sharanga to knock your foes down and into delayed Pinyaka or Javelin too, just for more damage. Having a sensor range of 15 really makes it easy to deliver painful tech action even at sniping range. It can really be a lot of pain to deal with. And that's all 37 Chomolungma builds finished reviewing. Once again, I would like to thank all of my viewers who have submitted their builds for this episode. Chomolungma really showed that GMS make damn sure that GMS Gold standard quality should be the lowest acceptable value across the known galaxy, because anything lower is trash. Chomolungma is a very flexible chassis that just happens to do extremely well in the wide field of electronic warfare. It might be GMS, and thus be less specialized in this aspect, but it can really just do more in less time. Anyway, I guess with this topic done, this series is once again on hiatus, at least until more new frames come in. As for what will be replacing it, I guess I can give you a hint, it's not gonna be as long as you expect though. That's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.